So welcome back to DecoyNoise, where we're doing more r/am I the antagonist and taking it over to Decoy Court, because sometimes these stories are so absurd they demand a retrial. So today's featured post is, would I be the antagonist if I told my grandma I know her dirty little secret? So as always, before we get into the story, I want to make sure you guys are subscribed down below so you can join that Decoy Koi pond, but also turning on those notifications so it's more of a situation of, I'm not a YouTube channel, I'm your old buddy Decoy that wants to text message you whenever I got some drama that I want to dish on, and we got to talk about it. So let's go ahead and get to that story right now. So OP wrote, okay, this sounds rough, but hear me out. My grandma has, by all accounts, been a very sweet lady for most of my life. She grew up in the South and can be a little judgmental, but she's mostly been great, until a certain election took place and gave a public platform to opinions that she's been wise enough to keep to herself in the past. These days, she's been a nightmare to deal with. She's become very critical of me and very condescending. I've been around long enough to know how bad immigrants have been for this country, dear. You'll understand when you're older. I'm 25 and just finished my MD PhD. I think I have the research skills to form my own opinions, Deborah. Edit. Finished high school at 15. University done when I was 18. MD/PhD done in 7 years. It's gotten so bad that I can't even walk into a room without her criticizing me. In my day, we wouldn't slouch like that. Or, I never would have been so disrespectful as to contradict my elders. Or, your generation is really the most immoral generation the world has ever seen. So here's the dilemma. A few years ago, I mentioned to my dad that I was going to take one of those ancestry DNA tests. He pulled me aside to let me know a secret he'd only recently discovered himself. His father isn't actually his father. See, my grandma had been married before and had a few children through her ex, but she divorced him and started seeing my grandpa. My dad was the only child they shared, except not really. Dad found out through his DNA kit that his half-siblings are actually his full siblings. He hasn't brought it up with his parents because there's no way grandpa knows and would probably kill him to find out. It's been 58 years. He never had a relationship with his biological dad, so he sees no reason to bring it up. And FWIW, not sure what that is, he's not sure my grandma even knows who my dad's father is, but the point is, she was very clearly sleeping with two men at the same time. Here's where I might be the antagonist here. Every time my grandma has gone off on a righteousness rant, I've actively had to bite my tongue to stop myself from calling her a hypocrite, and I mentioned to my spouse that the next time Gran starts to lecture me on immortality, probably meant, not immortality, probably meant like being immoral. I have half a mind to say, hey, at least I didn't cheat on Grandpa and lie about it for almost 60 years. To be clear, I wouldn't do this with an audience. I wouldn't tell my grandpa or anyone else. I'd just pull her aside privately and let her know that she can't keep lecturing someone who already knows which closet she hides the skeletons in. My spouse told me that I would unequivocally be the antagonist here and said that I should just let sleeping dogs lie, and that it's better that if I just keep smiling and ignoring old Gran's crappy comments because it's just generational ignorance. I disagree and think that I need to stop letting Gran's tirades go unchecked. Edit, see the comments for more details, but Grandma doesn't have dementia and wasn't attacked. I have my dad's blessing. So, okay, not the Decoy Court, but rushing this over to that very serious Decoy Court, where we're going to give you my knee-jerk reaction to this situation. And yes, one, it's always sad to see someone that's like, the people that are beating the drum the loudest for, like, people being immoral and, judging people and, being very, very opinionated about things, oftentimes, or giving advice to themselves on something, saying where they wish they were more like this person they're betraying, the person they're trying to make you to become like, and they just don't know how to keep their mouths shut about it. So I do see where the frustration would be, where OP thinks that grandma's wrong, grandma's ideals are outdated, grandma is just a terrible person top to bottom, and hypocritical at that. And they want an opportunity to slam dunk on grandma. And the sad part is, though, is at some point in time, I think you realize that your grandparents are getting older, I don't want to say outdated, like they're, it's negative, but it's just like, yes, their belief system was set up in a time that was the norm. They're wrong now, but you just kind of let sleeping dogs lie in that situation where, like, what good does this do for OP to slam dunk on grandma right now, where yes, grandma, is she just going to change her mind about everything that's going on in the world, or is she just going to ignore it, keep on plowing forward and say, no, you're not going to change my mind? I don't think yet, however old she is, 80 or something, she's going to be having this epiphany where like, oh my god, I'm wrong, thank you granddaughter, I'm changing my life. No, usually when you're that old, you already made your decision about the way you feel about things and your mannerisms stuff. So I don't really know if there's a win there, but I also do understand that I wouldn't want to just be chastised every step of the way I'm living my life by a giant hypocrite. So I do like the idea that OP says I would not do this in front of people. I would just do it in a situation where I pull her aside and say, hey, knock it off. You can't judge me anymore because I know you're a terrible person, if not more terrible. And that could actually be a good moment. I think that the dad has given her the green light. She knows not to do it in a public setting, but just to say, hey, I'm defending myself. So in the Decoy Court, it seems kind of like a not the antagonist moment. But then, you know, we're here because we need to see the decoy defense. What would be the scenario where we think the opposite of the Decoy Court? And there's a couple things that come to mind with this, where one, could this have been like a sperm donor situation where all the siblings are from some other person? But you know what? No, that actually doesn't make sense because it was so long ago. So no sperm donors. X that out. Whatever. What if this is a situation like The Prestige, where if you haven't seen Christopher Nolan's film The Prestige, I highly recommend it. Just go ahead and skip to the top comments right now. There's a link in the description for the timestamp. Go there. But if you haven't seen The Prestige, I don't want to spoil it for you. The Prestige is about two magicians that they're twins, and they keep on switching places whenever they do this disappearing man trick, where there's one, like, you know, there's one guy on the right side of the stage, another guy on the left side of the stage. They're identical twins. They're both magicians. So when they teleport from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen, or the stage, it's just one twin pops in, one twin pops in, one twin pops out, and one of them is just kind of like the assistant, and then one of them is a magician. So whenever they do the trick, they swap lives. One of them becomes a magician, one of them becomes the assistant. So what if it wasn't like, you know, the whole divorcing the one guy and getting with the other person? It was just like, hey, look, they were playing the act or whatever with this one guy, the husband, but you know what? Now that they did the act one final time, now they swap places, so she's got to be a situation like, okay, now I got to be with the other guy. I'm divorcing this one, getting with that one. It makes it more sense. They're that loyal to their craft of magician tree ship, whatever you want to call that. And she is very, very into the idea as he's the greatest magician of all time for his era, and they are going down in the history books at being like, you know, the what the real story is, what The Prestige is based on, a true story. That was their story. Oh my god, they're so fantastic. And OP, just because she doesn't want to get picked on anymore, she's going to out their entire scam and, you know, get them exiled from the Magician's Brigade by, you know, showing the world their magic tricks. So that would be the decoy defense as to why they weren't on the antagonist. I'm sorry, I don't have a better one for this, but this one seems so absurd. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick with OP and not the antagonist, because even if you do this very stern, like teaching them a lesson situation with grandma, you're doing it in the right way, where you're not trying to embarrass her, you're just trying to defend yourself. So I understand that fully. But let's go ahead and shoot over to that top comment to see what they're saying over there, saying not the antagonist. The older generations have destroyed any hope of positive future for us. I have no remorse for the hypocritical and manipulative ways. So looks like the next comment got a light bulb. I want to see what they're saying. And they say, honestly, yes, middle-class baby boomers are cloistered than their descendants because they got the last dregs of real welfare state. And yes, elderly people in the US are often racist sickos because there's massive media apparatus that monetizes their resentments by feeding them grafting onto the far-right politics. But I think a sweeping old people are evil statements are substantive or helpful, maybe or not, I don't know. Poor people die young. Political descendants in this country go to prison, live in poverty, die young, and many old people are simply invisible. Is this going to go? So this one's going to go along. This became a really weird political thing, and that's why I kind of feel like oftentimes Reddit has this weird like astroturfing where they want every single popular Reddit to be pushing some sort of political agenda. And I don't want to do it in this channel. This channel is all about fun. I don't think that you want to see this when you're going on here. But the one thing I would say with this is, like, you know, older generations have destroyed any hope of positive future for us. The one thing I'll say right there, I'm not trying to get political at all. I'm just saying one thing is, you know, what was permissible in the past is atrocious in the present. And I really feel like this generation here, what's permissible now is going to be atrocious later on. And I honestly think that, to me, is going to be the meat industry. I love bacon. I love steak. And the terrible things we do in that realm, it seems like we're just willing to turn a blind eye. I feel like in, like, maybe, you know, hundreds of years in the future when they can just synthesize meat, and we're already starting to kind of do that right now, but synthesize meat and the way that it tastes and has the same nutritional value as actual meat, we'll look back at this generation and be like, dear God, what did we do to cows? Have you ever seen a baby cow and how adorable they are? Have you ever seen a baby pig and how they act just like a dog and they wag their tail and they run around, and we're just doing awful things for them? So because we like bacon, it's like, I think that the future generations beyond us will be like, oh my God, Decoy grandpa, like, how could you do that? How could you just turn a blind eye to that? And then they'll be saying the same things about us that we're saying about the generation before us. So I don't ever want to sit here on a high horse trying to browbeat somebody from a different generation as if they could have known better, as if they, you know, where did they get their information from other than, like, you know, the newspaper and the one TV show they got at night. I just think it's ridiculous for us to try to, like, you know, bat our brows, you know, bat our eyes. No, bat your eyes is like flirting. What is it? Like, you know, wave our finger at the older generations because they weren't as fortunate as us. I don't think that's right. So let's go ahead and say, let's get to that top comment, or top controversial comment that got negative votes, saying, you're the antagonist. How would your father feel about it? Would he regret ever telling you? Would he think you can't be trusted? And I think they added an edit later on saying that the father has their blessing, because I think the father probably sees that OP is getting, you know, chastised so often for being something that she's a hypocrite of herself, being like, oh, you're immoral, even though maybe it wasn't a typo. You know, I wanted to correct that, saying that, hey, grandma says that, like, oh yeah, she's lecturing him or OP on, you know, being immoral, and that was a typo. But no, OP has a MD, a PhD, has all these different, like, diplomas and degrees and stuff. So she's very entitled. She's very intelligent. Maybe she wasn't talking about lecture me on immorality. She was saying, hey, she's lecturing me on immortality. Does grandma know something about being immortal? Is having babies with one person and then keeping on having babies with the other person and then having another husband make her immortal? That would be the bigger question to me. I honestly kind of feel like I'm spinning out of control right now, but there's a lot of questions to ask. But I'm still going to go ahead and say, after reading the prosecution top comment, the defense controversial comment, Decoy Court is going to say the same and say, hey, OP, you're not the antagonist. You seem to have a good head on your shoulders. You seem to know what you want to do, and you want to do it the right way. So no one's really going to blame you if you just kind of put your grandma on the spot like that. Maybe she has it coming, maybe she doesn't, but as long as you do it the right way, I feel like there's nothing wrong with that. So, you know, as we're going on and moving forward, I'd like to say that I just want this channel to be like, you know, in the world you're getting blasted with, like, you know, politics or stress from work or lockdown things or school is a hard time. And I truly want to have this a situation where, yeah, your buddy Decoy, you don't get to hang out with your friends so much, you don't have your office buddies anymore, you don't have your schoolmates anymore, but you got your buddy Decoy, and we can still talk about the same things that you normally would, instead of the, you know, that one girl that works in the office that always has some drama that she wants to tell you about and everybody wants to talk about. We got the internet to talk gossip about, so hopefully I can fill some sort of void in your life that you're not having right now. So, you know, maybe that encourages you guys to want to subscribe, turn the notifications on, and we can have this type of relationship where it is just this conversation, where it is something where, you know, I'm just a friend that wants to check in on you and just make sure that, you know, you're getting some socialization. But as always, you make it to the end of the video, you're having a little celebration, you're liking it, you're commenting, and you're also giving me your shares. You're sending the link to somebody. You know, make sure you guys are, like, sending it to somebody, but if nothing else, go ahead and click that link over there. It's another video that the Google algorithm thinks you'll like. This hat is very shiny.